What is going on, team? Welcome to another video, and today marks the third video in this short series about my brand new elite, but I probably would say that, hybrid power program. If you haven't watched any of the first two videos, please do go back and watch those. The first one is basically an overview of my 6-day training split, encompassing everything from, conventional kind of strength training, functional bodybuilding, strongman style work, power output work, hence the name hybrid power, in things like throws and jumps and plyometrics, running, and different methods and methodologies of conditioning. A rough overview of what that 6-day training split looks like can be found in the video with a thumbnail that looks just like this. And the first deep dive into the particular kind of session methodology and how we structure these sessions, which was the upper body session, can be found in the video with a thumbnail that looks just like this. So today, the third video in the series is taking a deep dive into the second session of the week, which is a lower body strength and power session. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Jim Galvin, and on this channel we cover all things training, nutrition, biohacking, and ancestral living to help you guys work out what you need to do based on your own individual biology to help and optimize your performance, your health, and your physique. And today I want to share with you some of the more specific details of what my lower body strength and power session looks like in this new training split. So getting straight into the nitty-gritty and putting some meat on the bones, as always, nice comprehensive warm-up. A warm-up, in my opinion, has 3 primary objectives. So stage 1 of the warm-up is what's called general warming, which is like 3 to 5 minutes on a particular piece of low impact erg kits. This could be on a bike, this could be, jumping jacks. Obviously there's a little bit of impact there, but basically something to warm up the body, to get the shoulders moving, to get the hips moving, to get all the joints articulating, and to get some blood pumping. The second phase is a little bit of mobility. That can either be some static stretching, some dynamic work, a little bit of ballistic work, I think kind of a combination of all of it, but again, really making sure that we're developing the range of motion in the shoulders, in the thoracic spine, and in the hips. And the third stage of the warm-up is some nice dynamic innovation drills with high knees, with lunges, some slightly more ballistic hamstring work. Even if I'm doing an upper body session, I love to put this stuff in there. Warm up in the bag and done. Moving on to the first proper puzzle piece of my lower body strength to power session. If you've been following my content for a while, you'll know that literally being athletic and powerful is kind of the foundation of where I was. I'm not sure I am now, but definitely where I'm trying to get back to now, even at 34. I think that being athletic and being speedy and dynamic and plyometric is the foundation of human performance. So it would not be a Jim Galvin session if I did not start it with a primer. For those of you that don't know, a primer is basically a resisted but very lightly resisted way of starting your session. It's kind of a missing link between a warm-up and then some lifting, really activating some of the tissues, the connective tissues in your central nervous system, getting you moving nice and quick. For upper body, it could be anything like a med ball throw, and for lower body, it is usually a jump variation. I will say now, this is my caveat. I filmed the stuff that you're watching now on a Tuesday, and I had a big competition on a Thursday. So this is kind of deloady for me, but a deload lower body session a couple of days before a functional fitness comp actually lends itself quite well to basically being really focused around power. It just meant that the weights went down a little bit, but speed kind of was either maintained or went up. So just a quick caveat in case you're wondering why there are hardly any flipping weights on the bar for this. But back to my primer, that was a seated box jump today. So I am not at all obsessed with making sure that the box is as high as possible. It becomes more about hip mobility than it does about power. And I think if people want to develop their box jump ability, the first thing they should do, because it's basically just a vertical jump, is try and ladder up the height of the box so they can land straight-legged on. So I set up a couple of pads, sat down on that, leaned back, leant forward, and basically transferred my weight forward, as you're seeing here, trying to explode up. And my objective with this, even though it's just a 30-inch box, this is nothing particularly special, but my objective with this was to land on the box either with either 2 straight legs or with the legs as straight as possible. So I did 5 reps of this, I took about a minute break, and I did 3 rounds of that in total, so 15 total reps. And that was, again, enough. The sweet spot with the primer is enough that it's activating everything, but not too much that you're starting to accrue and kind of develop fatigue here. Moving on to the main set now, and I chose trap bar deadlift for today. Unfortunately, I was asked to put mats down, and they are quite high, so I had to flip the trap bar over and try to grab the low handles, but even that was already quite high. But again, I only kept it, I think the trap bar was either 20 or 30 kilos, just say it's 20, say it's the standard weight of an Olympic bar. So I did a couple of reps on 60, a couple of reps on 100, and then went up to 140. This felt nice and snappy, but I didn't want to go any heavier. So what I had programmed normally was to do the wave loading that I had in the upper body, but I'll probably showcase that in another video. But again, I think this has worked out really well because it kind of, the way that I executed things in this particular lower body session was very power focused, so it's kind of lends itself well to this whole theme really. So sets of 4 or 5 on here, really making sure that we accelerate all the way through the movement. So here's a little funny statistic for you that I learned from one of Ross Edgley's books. Even if you get a 1 rep max on say bench or squat or deadlift, the chances are you're actually slowing down for the last 28% of the movement. And the reason for that is we're so much stronger at the top, so we don't really need to continue accelerating. That's why doing certain exercises with bands and chains are amazing for basically teaching us to continue to accelerate all the way through the movement, all the way through the extension. No bands or chains today. However, what I was doing is just making sure that I executed things with as much power as possible. A little bit of a calf raise and a little bit of a shrug, or I won't say shrug actually, I'll say elevation of the shoulders, which may happen naturally just because you're accelerating through as standard now. So 4 sets of either 4 or 5 reps on this. After the primer, the seated box jumps and the trap bar deadlift, definitely into the swing of things now. So we're gonna move on to the next component of the session, which is a little bit of unilateral work. Big favorite of mine is standard. I flipping love unilateral work. I'm much more built for it with like anterior pelvic tilt and kind of long femurs and long tendons. I'm much more built for single leg exercises than I am ever going to be for squats. Big fan of step ups generally, and I did some step ups with this, but there's a little bit of a nuanced change here. I'm using a safety bar, so the bar's in a slightly different position. I'm kind of slightly more tilted forward. I've literally never done safety bar step ups in my life, so this is really, really interesting. And the other thing about this is to make sure that I had a nice kind of stable lower leg, which obviously you don't jump from your heels, you jump and kind of roll onto your toes. So your ankles need to stay nice and stable. Your calf, basically your soleus, your Achilles tendon needs to be nice and strong and be able to handle that load. I was basically doing step ups with a floating heel. So the balls of the feet were on some of the reps and the heel was off, and that just builds that ankle stability when you execute them in this way. I did this on some of the sets. I didn't want to do this on all of them, which is why you're seeing some of them here with basically just the flat foot standard, because I didn't know how my calf and Achilles were going to react. They're already flipping taped up, and I was competing in less than 48 hours. So I thought I'd do 2 sets of the floating heel and then go back to regular, so as not to put too much volume through an exercise that was new for me. Another nuanced change here, really to develop power, and it develops amazing, like strong looking athletic legs as well. Really packing on some decent mass with it, is to do a big strong knee drive with the other leg. Keep accelerating with the leg that's working big again. You don't just slow down towards the top and put the other foot on. Keep accelerating, boom, drive that knee up really, really, really aggressively, back down into the box and then step down from there. So one leg drives down, one leg is drawn up. Effectively, that opposite movement is exactly how we walk, it's how we sprint, which again, sprinting down in that drive phase is the most fundamental thing you can do. So one leg being extended, one leg being flexed, perfect step up variation. 6 reps on each side, 3 rounds of this in the bag, guys. That is the accessory volume work done. And then moving on to the final bit of finisher, I was doing some calf raises here. I was doing them seated, basically to kind of really focus the soleus and the Achilles tendon. I've had Achilles problems for a couple of years and have had stem cells in both, as some of you may know if you followed me for a while. And then a dumbbell between the knees, hanging tuck. Focusing on the calf raise though, I did 30 total, guys. I did 10 in kind of a standard neutral position, 10 with my toes in, 10 with my toes out, basically to kind of make sure that we get as much of like a 3-dimensional strength and stability around as possible. And it was really, really interesting just seeing how fatigued my calves were from that. It's almost like they can jump and they're kind of fairly naturally plyometric, but the endurance capacity is quite low. So it's definitely good that this stuff is in the program because it's highlighting where my weaknesses are. And then the dumbbell hanging tuck, basically just dumbbell between the knees, jumping up, and nice controlled reps. You could get a nice easy swing with this and get the reps done quick. You're not really going to develop anything other than like a slight kipping movement. So I really wanted to focus on the controlled, composed activation, which is why I did it in this way. 30 reps of calf raise, 10 reps on the hanging tucks, and 3 rounds through. So again, it doesn't sound like much volume, and normally I might put in, I don't know, a little like prowler finisher with some leg curls or something, but overall, that in and of itself is genuinely a good enough session. I did say this on the upper body session as well, guys. People massively over glorify volume. I personally believe with a lower body strength and power session, if you have a primer and then a main lift and a unilateral lift, and the only thing we didn't really kind of focus on, something that specifically focuses on hip extension. But normally, if you've got those 4 components, 3 of which we covered today, you're golden. You do not need to have 15 different flipping exercises in your leg session with 1,000 reps in each. You just don't. Attack things, put some flipping weight on the bar, execute things with a bit more intensity, and you are golden from there. Nice short snappy one today, guys. So that is the 3rd in this mini series. Again, we had the overview, we had a deep dive into the upper body, and now I've had the deep dive into the lower body. I've got a couple of vlogs coming up from a couple of different places I've been, which I'm really excited to share with you. But any questions on anything I've covered today, please do put them in the comment section down below. Please do aggressively smash that like button. If you have not yet done so, please do make sure you subscribe. And once again, the best thing you can do, the most gracious thing you could possibly do for me is to share this video and some of your other favorites from my channel with someone else just like you. That is the way that we're gonna grow, that is the way that we're gonna get big, and that is the way that we're gonna spread this message. As always, beautiful people, stay strong, stay healthy, stay awesome, and I'll see you soon.